before we start layering up our plates, it's worth considering whether your printing ink is transparent or opaque, or a mixture of the two. As with monotype printing that I did in the last session, my personal preference is for transparent colours, because then when you lay two transparent colours together, like a transparent blue and transparent red, where they overlap, you get a third colour. You're going to get purple. However, there's still a room for opaque colour as well. That could be interesting. It may be worth exploring using an opaque colour on or under a transparent one. Okay, but it's what you need to work out whether they are transparent or not. And unlike paints, most of the print inking companies don't seem to tell us whether they're transparent or not. It's really hard to get that kind of information. And even with the Akua Intaglio, they have a list on their colour chart, and they call them semi-transparent or intense. And the ones that I would consider to be transparent are called intense. I'm not really quite sure what that means. So, in the interest of science and knowledge, I'm going to devise a little test here. I've put some gesso, a strip of gesso, black, along here, so you can really see, because what we don't want it to do, if you're printing on top of a black, for example, collaggraph print, which you could print over something that's just a plain black and white one. One of the early ones we did might be nice, worth to explore. You don't necessarily want to obliterate your blacks. You want them to still be there. So otherwise it's going to look weird. So let's have a go. Right, I've got 3 reds. These are all aqua, and this is their scarlet. Which is a delicious colour. Obviously you wouldn't have it this thick when you're printing. There's no way it's going to be that thick, so I'm going to thin it out. But already it's kind of settling into, whoops, I'm waking up actually, the black. I did dry it. It's waking up the black, so I've really got much more careful with it. But it's settling into, I wouldn't call that, and if you see it on my tool, no, it's not going to go close. I would call that an opaque. Right, the next red I have is a much duller red. Just trying to get a little bit on my palette. This is red oxide. And again, I would call that opaque. Now, Susan Rostow, who developed Akua, has an excellent video on YouTube where she's kind of doing this. What she's done is painted or printed all of her colours onto strips of thin plastic. It's a lovely video to watch, and there's strips and she can overlay them. So by putting one strip on top of another, she can see what third colour she's going to make, because most of them can be. We can also, I'll show you how to make them more transparent with extender. This is an interesting one, because this is what she calls cadmium red, and I don't think it is at all. And personally, I find this is lovely and transparent. Okay, I can see it really isn't obliterating that black at all. It's quite hard to. So that's cadmium red. Let's move on to our blues. This is Prussian blue, which again I would argue is transparent. I don't know that I read there, I might just. Here, how dense that is compared to that red. So it's covering the black. I'll take some more photos of these and put them up on the website so you can see. I have a green. I'm going to run out of room. I have to grab on a piece of paper. This is phthalo green. I've got two greens, which again I always consider to be a transparent. And then the last one is a green oxide, which is so not. You can see it. You can see it on my spatula. Look at that. That is one opaque green. That's green oxide. Okay, so there are reds, blues and greens. I'll label this and take a photo and put it up on the website so you get to see it more clearly. I've tatted a piece of paper. I apologise. Again, this is black gesso. Let's go in with our yellows and browns, which is pretty much all I've got left over. Just going to give that a bit of a clean. This is Hansa yellow. And it's fairly transparent. Doesn't look it on the palette. Okay, but I would be happy to consider that a transparent. Remember, you're not using it super thick when you're printing. It's not like painting. I'd say it's probably a semi, as opposed to, and it's coming, the yellow ochre. Look, that's really covering. Yeah, a yellow ochre paint would be exactly the same. Okay, yellow ochre is an earth colour. The pigment it is, it's not going to be transparent. Then I've got a burnt umber. Which I use as a transparent. And the raw umber. The burnt umber is a lovely warm brown. The raw umber is pretty much what I would call a sepia. And again, that's transparent. I think I've covered them all. Yes, I have. Okay, so hopefully that kind of helps in terms of what they do. The next stage, oh yes, you're not finished yet. The next stage is you can buy extenders. I've lost my palette knife. What an extender is designed to do is to thin and make more, by the very nature of making it thin, your printing ink without changing the viscosity. So obviously, as with watercolour, you could add water to it, it's going to thin it down, but it's going to make, watercolour is watery. We don't want to make our paints watery. We just want to make them lighter. So what an extender will do will make them lighter, and by the very nature of making them lighter, it's making them more transparent. Okay. Akua make their own brand of a transparent base, I think it's called. I haven't got any here. So what I tend to use also Caligo safe wash printing inks when I'm teaching lino printing, and they make a very good extender, and it's mixable. Trust me, I've done it plenty of times. It's mixable with the Akua because the Caligo extender doesn't have oil in it. It's not an oily thing. It's a kind of gel stuff. So you can mix it. I've used the Caligo safe wash extender and I've used the Akua, and they're pretty similar. Okay, so don't overstress if that's what you've got. So if you're finding your colours too dense and you don't want to change your plate, so you don't want to make it You could put varnish on it to make it lighter, as we've discovered, but you want lighter colours, whether that's your blacks or whatever colour you're using, then the extender is where you want to go, and it's also going to make your paint more transparent. Now I'm just going to do it very briefly with the ones that are clearly, like the green oxide, ones that are clearly opaque, to see whether it makes a difference. I've mixed some up here. What tools I'm using? Here we are. There. Okay, so you can see, I'll move it down a bit so I'm not quite on camera. You can see how that's become way more see-through. So you've pretty much made it a lighter version of the colour, obviously, but you're making it a transparent by adding an extender. Another one along here I had was the scarlet, which obviously by the very nature of it, it goes pink. So you get a really nice transparent pink there. That's really nice. I'm liking that. And I've got the violet on here. And again, you can see how that's gone a lot more see-through. In fact, I'll extend it onto there. So you're making an opaque into a transparent. What you're also doing, though, by that nature, is you're lightening the colour. Okay, that's the payoff, but that's okay. On the yellows, the only one I have that's really what I would call an opaque is this yellow ochre. There, okay, you should be able to see on there how that's become a lot more transparent. I hope that helps. There, so hopefully you can see how you can make your colours more transparent and lighter. I've finished them all off. I will take a photo of this and put it up on the website. So this is our greens into blues, violets and reds. And then the other sheet was the yellows and the browns.
And I have seen the future on the walls of the greenhouse cafe, and I have seen the light by the light of a rain-sodden day, and the tide grows, and the land that you know is engulfed by the sea.